Howdy, howdy, freeze dryers. The time is finally here to make some freeze dried cat food, and I've got to apologize that this video has taken me so long to make. I really just wanted to do plenty of research, get some good recipes. In this case, 3 recipes today to make sure that your cat has some good nutrition and a recipe that's good for freeze drying. With all of that said, please consult your vet before making any of these recipes, and let's get started. In the process of finding these recipes, this gave me lots of time to actually find a couple good resources. I will link them down in the description for some cat recipe books. And in doing research, I actually learned a couple of pretty cool things about cats. Cats are natural scavengers. Domesticated cats. And way back when, in European countries and some other countries, in villages and in small cities, cats and dogs were used to kind of clean up people's extra garbage and trash and food scraps and things to clean up cities. So why am I telling you this? Because when I was doing my research for recipes, a lot of the recipes included things that you would not typically think of a cat eating. I can speak from experience. The cats we've had in the past, they love watermelon, they love asparagus. In fact, so much they would choose it over cat food. So let's get started with our first recipe. Our first recipe is going to be blueberries, celery, broccoli, watermelon, and then a protein of your choice. I'm using tuna for all of my recipes today, but you can supplement that with whatever protein you'd like. A couple things to note while you're doing these recipes today. Just like humans, cats and dogs can be very opinionated as far as what they like and what they don't like. So maybe just try a small amount and see if they like it. You can supplement ingredients, remove ingredients completely, or adjust if you need to. Second, make sure that you're making everything bite-sized for a cat. You'll also want to determine if your cat will eat raw ingredients or if you need to cook them first, like broccoli. And the third thing is, anytime you're making a homemade cat or dog food, make sure you're consulting a vet just to make sure that they're getting all of the vitamins and nutrients they need for their specific breed or size. Sometimes it's necessary to add in a supplemental vitamin powder just to make sure that your pet is getting the nutrition that it needs. First ingredient is going to be 1/4 cup of blueberries. And we're gonna make these in small batches, and that way you can accommodate your freeze dryer size. Once we get these recipes made, then you can multiply them to your needs of your size of freeze dryer. Second ingredient, 1/4 cup of your protein, and then 1/4 cup of watermelon. And then make sure again that you're making these cat size. Next, 2 cups of finely chopped broccoli. Last ingredient, 3/4 cup of celery. Now we're gonna mix this all together. A lot of these recipes will benefit from actually getting in there with your hand, smashing it all together, kind of breaking down the ingredients. Let's see how much this recipe yields. That gave us just under 4 cups. If you figure out your cat does not like the chunks like this, you could also blend this almost into a paste. And at that point, it might be handy to put some dividers in as well. And then you can figure out what a serving size would be for each meal. And now let's move on to tray 2. The next recipe is going to use some carrots, Napa cabbage, red pepper, cantaloupe, and a protein of your choice. And I'll start with putting 1/4 cup of tuna or protein of your choice, followed by 1/2 cup of cantaloupe, followed by 1 cup of cabbage, 1 cup of red peppers, and last, a cup of sliced carrots. That recipe also made just about 4 cups and ended up filling a small tray very nice. Time for tray 3. Last recipe is 1/4 cup of protein. This one actually works really good with turkey. 1/2 cup of apples. 1.5 cups of zucchini. Last, we need 1.5 cups of cooked sweet potatoes. When these sweet potatoes are cooked, you can actually smash them into the rest of the ingredients, which is what we're going to talk about next. I've spoken to a couple of people who make a similar recipe to this. Certain cats will only eat certain textures, which I understand. So you can do a couple things or a few things in order to change the texture of this. You can run it through a food processor. You can actually run it through a meat grinder, or what I'm going to try today is freeze dry all of this first and then kind of crumble it together and then rehydrate it so we can get more of a paste type texture. On this 4th tray, since I only have 3 trays, I have this 4th tray, I'm actually taking all of my vegetable scraps from what I trimmed off of everything I cut up today. And then I'm gonna powder those to make a vegetable broth. You could actually use that to help rehydrate this as well. Another good idea, I think, would be to take a chicken broth or something like that and rehydrate this food with chicken broth or turkey broth or whatever you think your cat would like. If you'd like to streamline your freeze drying process, check out freezedryingsupplies.com. We've developed all kinds of products that will make your freeze drying faster, more efficient, easier. We also have 2 social media groups on Facebook and MeWe at Retired at 40's Freeze Drying Group that can answer all of your freeze drying questions. And if you're ready to take the plunge on a freeze dryer, or you're just curious about pricing and specs, you can visit our link below in the description and find out about Harvest Right freeze dryers. And just like all of our video recipes, this recipe will be going on the freeze drying cookbook and will go on the hard copy version as well in the near future. All right, let's take a peek at this freeze dried kitty food after 28 hours. And even though this doesn't look like what you would think freeze dried homemade cat food would look like, once we get this rehydrated, I think I'm gonna crumble some of this stuff up a little bit into almost a powder or smaller chunks. And then we're gonna make them kind of into a pate for a cat. So I'm not sure that my way is really the best way to do it. I think if we put this through a meat grinder or process this down almost into a pate or like a hamburger patty consistency, this would work best. That would also benefit a lot from the dividers, because you could divide up just different portion sizes or whatever to suit your cat's needs. What I'm gonna do, since I have this process the way that it is right now, is I'm gonna bag it up. I'm gonna kind of crumple it down a little bit before I vacuum seal it. And I'm gonna add a little broth powder in as well, so when we rehydrated it, it adds a little bit more flavor. Might help hold it together a little bit better. But I think what we're going for is really kind of a kitty hamburger patty. Before I vacuum seal this in bags, I did go ahead and process this down a little bit farther in a food processor. I think probably the best way to do this is just do it ahead of time instead of after, because it's not processing down as well as I wanted it to. And what we're really trying to do is make a little kitty-sized hamburger patty out of our homemade cat food. Make sure that the consistency of your finished freeze-dried product is able to let you make a patty like that. I think if you process this up front and squeeze it into a patty, or push it down into the pan and then use dividers to make patties, that would be extremely helpful for when you go to feed your cat with this. Now let's go find a cat.